back to Revive FM and continue our discussion. We're joining Fareeda Abbasi, and we've been talking about, amongst other things, education and social justice, and also the work that Ms. Abbasi has been doing in terms of empowerment for those who are in need, but also the community relations that she's harnessed and endeavored to progress with. As she said in her own good words, is that it's all about starting at base roots and to serve. And serving is one of the most noble causes, specifically when it's to do with education. Let's rejoin Fareeda and ask her a little bit about the great work that she does with her articles, and specifically we'll talk straight away with her articles on press freedom, and in particular, how that relates to the reality of the world at the moment, where the press and information that's coming to us is from such a variety of sources, specifically social media. Let's hear Fareeda's take on this.
I think it's very important to know the voice of the people, and social media is a very good way to find out about different things. The press is, in the true sense, is really there to inform the public correctly. And I think that is a very sacred job. It needs to be treated like that you inform without bias the facts, and inform with the viewpoint of not creating chaos in a country, not dividing a country, but uniting it together. So I think that is a responsibility that the press has, and it needs to take that very seriously and not get people diverted in different directions, fighting for something and fighting amongst themselves. That this just destroys the purpose if the freedom of press leads to that. So we have to be aware of the consequences, and one of the things in our schools, in our curriculum, we very much emphasize critical thinking, the analysis, the consequences of your actions. So it is part of education. If a child leaves the school, they should have these abilities, and if they don't have them, and they just have a grade, I wouldn't call that person educated, who's got a lot of PhD degrees, or who's got or very good grades, but doesn't have character, or can't analyze, or doesn't have critical thinking. I think we need to see education in its true sense. What is education? What is quality education? And it's not a grade. You cannot equate it to that. Yes, exams are very much part of assessing how much one knows, but it's not the totality of education. And in that sense, your question with previously, we had so much research happening, everything coming out through that avenue, and now we have all social media where things information passes so quickly without even verifying the content of it. So here again, if you educate somebody properly, then the tools of the internet and the data on the internet and how to use the internet are all become useful. So to the degree you educate them, it's useful, and to the degree you don't educate them and they don't have any critical thinking, they can be misused as well. So it is a positive point that we have so much available on the internet to learn from, but with it we must educate our youth and ourselves so that we correctly use that data to bring about a better world.
And in light of that, Fareeda, many of your articles focus on exactly that, to bring about a better world. And if anyone wants to just, your articles are readily available on your website, www.fareedabulbrook.com. And amongst other things, the articles focus on many topics. And as I stated just before the short break, that you actually have a universal appeal in terms of the issues that you're passionate about, that you want to address. What you stated just now about press freedom and the fact that education has many facets and how it's valued is not the traditional way of getting accolades and grades. But I wanted to ask you one thing which has always fascinated me, specifically when you have people like yourself, social activists, thinkers, educationalists. I mean, you're a published author. Your charitable foundations. You've set up a school, as you said, in your home city of Karachi in Pakistan. I wanted to. This thing has always puzzled me. The work that you do as an independent educationist. How does that tie in terms of the reality that the government should be fulfilling that role and elected officials have to focus their attention on that? This has always puzzled me, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be thinking the same thing, shouting out and being. It's almost like a frustration that where is this gap? Which great that you do it. It is a blessing that you do it. It's fascinating that you do it. You fill in that gap where others fear to tread or don't tread. But elected officials and government ministers and elected heroes, wherever they are in the subcontinent, there's one gap that they always miss, and that's education. And people like yourselves, and there are many other individuals, great individuals, who step up to the noble cause. But I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about that? That there are officials elected to progress basic education, and why are they not doing it?
So, you're right. I mean, there are people, a lot of people in Pakistan who are very aware of the problems and also have the solutions to improve the education system. But I think any change and any invention comes from a person. It comes from an individual. It doesn't come from a group as such. You know, the agreements are brought about in the group, but the actual bringing about a curriculum or bringing about some change is initiated by a person. So it's important that step continues, and I myself did start with working with the government at the federal and provincial level, and and then because the impact wasn't as much or what I really wanted in terms of quality, then I went off to create my own NGO, and then from there on to bring about lasting and stable results, I created my own curriculum and my own teacher training program so that we can actually bring about the full potential. The child should reach their full potential. And I think every one of us has looked at young children, babies, toddlers, and what do you see in a toddler? How much is their observation skill? How much is their learning capacity? How curious they are? How far they're duplicating so many things, learning languages, and they have so much willingness. A child's love is, we have something to learn from the way a child loves. Their honesty, their dedication, how they persevere. They fail, they still try. And, they learn to walk. We don't teach them. They learn to walk. They fall. They still get up. This is what we get. This is a blessing that we get in terms of a child. And it is our job as educationalists to preserve that. They have so much, and what we are doing is we have to retain that purity in them and give them additional skills and to live. They have the attitudes. They are correct. We are the ones who dampen them or direct them along the wrong path. So I feel that we don't have to create in them something. They already are beautiful. They already have those qualities. All we are teaching them is how to get on in the world, how to make a good life, how to be able to serve. And in that sense, I think it's very important to have a curriculum that can do that, and where the most emphasis needs to be placed is on teacher training. And we have a program to do that. We are very strict about our teacher training. Our teachers, unfortunately, they need support. There are a lot of good, willing teachers in Pakistan, and they need to be supported so that they can actually bring the child to the full potential. I think that's so necessary if we want to bring change in Pakistan, that we actually work towards empowering the teacher, giving her the needed support, and then the child will flourish and prosper, and in turn Pakistan will flourish and prosper.
Indeed, and the great part is, of course, which is really incredible, is that you've done this all from your own dedication. In many ways, it leads to a conclusion that if you have the passion for something, you can get up and do it and be strong in your conviction to get it done. Is there any sense that you felt that you would have got to your goals much easier and faster if there was any support from the governments, and in particular you said you worked with the federal and the provincial governments yourself, but how difficult was that journey for you, considering you basically received no support?
I think every experience is a learning experience, and one grows through it, and we are all in it together. There are people all over Pakistan in government and not in government, and we have good intentions, and we just need to unite towards the actual goal of education. I think we haven't defined it as, if we just agree on what is the definition of education, because it's changed. It's not really what it is. It's a true education. As I said, you get the child to their full potential, able to serve and have critical thinking. They should be able to have that character, strength of self-control, zest, grit, optimism, curiosity. They should have gratitude, social intelligence. These things are like basics, and they form education. So if you are able to give that a definition of what is education, then all the avenues that are working towards, all the parts that are working towards, the roles that are being played towards giving quality education, we can do that together. We can't do it alone. I can do it I'll tell you what obstacles I come across in the school that I'm running, and in terms of, as I said, the teacher training is so important. At the moment, it's not valued as it should be. A teacher should only be a teacher if she actually wants to bring about children who reach their full potential. And it is not about having an outing from your home, having a little change and not being at home all day, or getting a little bit of cash. That's really demeaning the field of education if with that intention one is coming to do a job. It's like nursing. You wouldn't put somebody in a nursing job unless they were trained and totally dedicated to serving lives. And teaching is equivalent to that. You only want people like that, and it's sometimes I find hard to find those kind of people to hire in our organization, and I think we need to cultivate that again through our education system. I think the obstacle that we have is that our culture is very much pushing onto our parents something that is not really correct. The social values that are being promoted impact on the parent, and then in turn impact on and also impact on the teacher, because they also start pushing those things. We regard education to be one should be able to get a lot of money from it. If you earn a lot of money, then your education served its purpose. If you have a big status in your job, then your education served its purpose. And if others are less than you and you are higher than them, then your education served its purpose. And these are not really this is not really what education is about. So in my own school, I have to bring in parents and I train them. We have a curriculum for parents. If a student joins our school, then we request the parents to also come and get training, because if I start talking about don't discriminate and then don't make a difference between minorities or other sects or gender discrimination, and if in the home those values are not practiced, the child gets very confused about that. So I think it's about, to answer your question, the parents do need training. Our programs provide that. Our teachers need training. That also is essential. So if we all, student, the parent, and the teacher are a team, and with this team can we produce the product that we are going for the child reaching their full potential. I mean, in terms of, the difficulties that we are having in terms of we have admissions come from other schools. I mean, we've had a lot of people moving from other schools to our schools. And I'll tell you, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see when children from class 4, 5, 6 come for admissions and they don't have the knowledge of pre-primary level. If you give them three numbers to add in hundreds, they will add it from the wrong side, or they don't know multiplication. They can't join letters and make a word. But they have got the certificate that they have passed class 6 or class 5 or class 4. Now, that I think it's criminal to do that. I think you'd agree with me. It's just not fair to the child.
Yes, indeed.
We're in a very delicate situation because I cannot be harsh with that child. It's not his fault. What has happened to him or her is not his fault. It's our fault as adults. We are responsible for having done that. So in this situation, we have to work with the child and still keep him in that class, but we say you have to start from the bottom up. And we have a fast-track curriculum to get him to that level so that they can be proud of where they are and they know that they know what they know. And they can be curious and passionate about the subjects that they are learning. So the education system needs to look at these areas and be correct for the child and for the future of Pakistan.
Indeed. Let's join this lovely discussion with you, Fareeda, after a short break where we're going to talk about the impact of the work that you've done and also the modern context of education and the legacy of educationists in the future. Join us after the short break. Thank you.